We check our phones an average of 96 times a day. That's once every 10 minutes during our waking hours. We tell ourselves we're checking the time or the weather or something important, but let's be honest about what we're really doing. We're checking to see if anyone noticed us, if anyone cared, if anyone thought we mattered enough to send a message, leave a comment, press a little heart-shaped icon beneath something we shared with the world. There's a particular kind of silence that cuts deeper than any insult. It's the silence of being ignored. You post something you've poured yourself into, something vulnerable, something true, and then you wait, you refresh, you check again. The silence stretches, hours pass, days pass, and that silence begins to feel like a verdict on your worth, doesn't it? The absence of validation starts to feel like the presence of rejection. But here's what makes this fascinating from an evolutionary perspective. This feeling, this desperate need to know that others see us and approve of us, isn't a character flaw. It's not vanity or insecurity or some modern pathology created by social media. It's ancient, it's primal, it's literally written into the architecture of our brains by millions of years of survival pressure. Let me take you back, way back, to the African savanna maybe 300,000 years ago. You're not scrolling through your phone because phones don't exist, writing doesn't exist, agriculture doesn't exist. What does exist is your tribe, maybe 40 or 50 people, and this is the only reality you'll ever know. These people are your entire world, they are your survival. Being excluded from this group doesn't mean loneliness in the way we understand it today, it means death. If the tribe rejects you, you don't eat. You don't have protection from predators, you don't have help when you're injured or sick, you don't have anyone to warn you of danger or share the work of staying alive. Being cast out is a death sentence, and it usually comes slowly enough that you have time to understand exactly what's happening to you. Your brain evolved to find this prospect absolutely terrifying, more frightening than almost anything else, because for your ancestors it was. So your brain developed an incredibly sophisticated social monitoring system. It became exquisitely attuned to signs of acceptance and rejection. When people smiled at you, included you, valued your contributions, your brain released dopamine and oxytocin and serotonin, a chemical cocktail that felt amazing. This wasn't random. This was your brain rewarding you for behavior that increased your survival odds. You felt good when the tribe approved of you because feeling good motivated you to keep seeking that approval, to keep maintaining your place in the group. And when people frowned at you, excluded you, dismissed you, your brain released cortisol and activated the same regions that process physical pain. Social rejection literally hurts, and brain scans prove it. The anterior cingulate cortex, the part of your brain that fires up when you touch a hot stove, lights up the same way when you experience social exclusion. Your brain treats social pain like physical pain because, for most of human history, social pain was a warning sign of incoming physical death. This is why a dismissive comment from a stranger on the internet can ruin your entire afternoon. This is why being left on read creates that specific kind of anxiety in your chest. This is why not getting invited to something, even something you didn't particularly want to attend, stings in a way that feels disproportionate. Your rational mind knows these things don't actually threaten your survival, but your ancient brain hasn't received that update. It's still running software designed for a world where the tribe was everything. Now fast forward to today. You're not on the savannah. You're safe in your home with access to food and shelter and medicine that your ancestors couldn't imagine. The existential threat of tribal rejection has been eliminated, except your brain doesn't know that. It's still desperately monitoring for signs that the group accepts you. But here's where things get strange and complicated. The group is no longer 40 people who you hunt with and gather with and survive with. The group is now potentially billions of people, most of whom you'll never meet, mediated through screens and algorithms that have figured out exactly how to exploit your ancestral need for validation. Social media companies employ some of the smartest engineers and psychologists in the world, and they have collectively discovered something remarkable. They can artificially trigger that ancient validation system in your brain whenever they want. Every notification is a small dose of tribal acceptance. Every like is a signal that the group sees you and approves. Every comment, every share, every follower is your brain receiving the message that you're valuable to the tribe, that you're not going to be cast out, that you're safe. But here's the insidious part. Unlike real tribal acceptance, which was relatively stable once you earned it, digital validation is designed to be unpredictable and intermittent. This is actually more addictive. It's the same psychological principle behind slot machines. When a reward comes at random intervals, you check more often, you become more obsessed. You can't predict when the next hit of dopamine is coming, so you keep pulling the lever, keep refreshing the feed, keep posting and checking and hopping. You post something and it gets 10 likes. Your brain gets a little reward. You post something else and it gets 50 likes. Bigger reward. You post a third thing and it gets 3 likes. Now you're confused, anxious. What did you do wrong? Why did the tribe withdraw its approval? You start modifying your behavior, trying to figure out the formula, trying to get back to that 50-like high. You're not even aware you're doing it, but you're being shaped, trained, molded into creating content that serves the platform's engagement metrics rather than your own authentic expression. And the cruelest part is that none of this actually satisfies the original need. The validation you get online doesn't provide the deep, lasting sense of belonging that your brain is actually craving. It's empty calories. It's the social equivalent of junk food, engineered to trigger the reward pathways without providing real nourishment. You can have 10,000 followers and still feel completely alone, because your brain knows on some level that these aren't your people. They're not the tribe who would bring you food when you're sick or defend you from danger or sit with you through grief. But we keep seeking it anyway because the need is so fundamental. We perform our lives for an invisible audience. We curate our experiences not for the joy of the experience itself, but for how it will look when we share it. We photograph our meals, our vacations, our children, our pain, our joy, everything, all of it transformed into content, into bids for attention and approval from people we barely know. And here's what we lose in this process. We lose our ability to validate ourselves. We outsource the determination of our worth to external metrics that are literally designed to keep us unsatisfied. We become like dogs sitting pretty for a treat that never quite fills us up, forgetting that we're not actually dogs, that we have the capacity to feed ourselves. Think about a child learning to walk. They fall down constantly. It's painful, it's frustrating. But they keep trying not because someone is watching and approving, but because there's an internal drive to master the skill. There's intrinsic motivation, intrinsic satisfaction in the accomplishment itself. When did we lose that? At what point did the internal joy of creation or learning or growth become insufficient, requiring external validation to feel real? This is the trap of the validation-seeking mind. It creates a kind of existential dependency. If your sense of worth comes from other people's reactions, then you can never truly rest. You're always performing, always monitoring, always anxious about the next measure of your value. You become a puppet dancing for an audience that ironically is mostly composed of other puppets, all of us performing for each other, all of us hungry for something none of us can provide. And the exhausting thing is that it works just well enough to keep us hooked. Sometimes you do get that surge of validation. Sometimes the post goes viral, or someone you admire notices you, or you get praise that feels genuinely meaningful. And in that moment you feel seen. You feel valuable. Your ancient brain sighs with relief because the tribe has confirmed your place in it. But then the feeling fades faster than you'd like, and you're back to seeking, back to performing, back to the endless cycle. So what's the way out? And I want to be clear, I'm not suggesting you should stop caring what anyone thinks. That's neither possible nor healthy. We're social creatures. We need connection. The need for belonging is real and valid and not something to be transcended or eliminated. The question isn't whether we should care about external validation. The question is whether we should be enslaved to it. The shift begins with a simple recognition. External validation is not the same thing as internal worth. Other people's opinions about you, whether positive or negative, are fundamentally information about them, not about you. When someone praises you, it means you've aligned with their values, their aesthetic, their needs in that moment. When someone criticizes you, it means you haven't. But none of this determines your actual value as a human being, because human beings don't have instrumental value that fluctuates based on performance. You're not a stock whose worth goes up and down with the market. This is hard to internalize because we're so used to the opposite framework. We're used to measuring ourselves by achievement, by productivity, by how much we're liked or admired or desired. We're used to the idea that our value is something we have to earn and can lose. But this is a category error. You can earn someone's approval, you can lose someone's respect, but your fundamental worth as a conscious being having an experience in this universe, that's not up for negotiation. It's not contingent on anything, it simply is. When you start to really understand this, something shifts. You can still enjoy positive feedback, still appreciate when your work resonates with others, still value connection and belonging, but it doesn't have the same power over you. It becomes information you can use rather than a verdict you must accept. Someone likes what you created. Great, that tells you something about potential alignment. Someone doesn't like it. Also useful information, but not a determination of worth. The ultimate freedom is realizing that the only validation that truly matters, the only validation that can actually fill the void, is the validation you give yourself. Not in an egotistical way, but in the deep recognition that you are the only one living your life from the inside, the only one who knows your full story, your struggles, your growth, your intentions. You are the only one qualified to judge whether you're living with integrity according to your own values. This doesn't mean you shouldn't listen to others or consider feedback or care about your impact. It means you get to be the final arbiter of your own worth. It means you can say thank you to praise without becoming dependent on it, and you can consider criticism without being destroyed by it. It means you can create things for the joy of creation, speak your truth for the relief of honesty, live your values for the satisfaction of alignment, all without waiting for the world to tell you it's okay to feel good about yourself. The silence of being ignored stops feeling like death when you realize you were never actually in danger. The craving for validation loosens its grip when you understand it was always based on an outdated threat assessment. And the freedom to just be without performing or proving or pleading for recognition becomes possible when you finally give yourself what you've been asking the world to provide. The simple acknowledgement that you are here, you are real, and you are enough.